Hello, everyone. On behalf of AAEE Board Member and Director of Professional Development, Alicia Scott, it's my pleasure to welcome you to another webinar hosted by the American Association for Employment and Education. Thank you for joining us for today's topic, Educator Supply and Demand Report Overview and Q&A with Tim Neubert. I am that same Tim Neubert, and I serve as AAEE's Executive Director. Please allow me to cover just a few housekeeping matters before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to AAEE members as well as non-members who registered for the event. Attendees are encouraged to post any questions, comments, or feedback using the Q&A or chat features within Zoom. If you or your organization do not yet have AAEE membership, please visit our website, aaee.org to learn more about our activities and resources. We are a professional association intent on positively impacting education through professional connections. Related to that mission, we connect the three critical groups involved with the preparation, recruitment, and retention of pre-K-12 educators: university professionals and others who prepare and support educators, school system professionals and others who recruit, hire, and retain them, and of course, educator candidates themselves. We offer annual publications such as the Job Search Handbook for Educators. We conduct an educator supply and demand survey each fall and winter, resulting in a spring report. As you well know, we co-host the careersforeducators.com job board with Kappa Delta Pi. We host webinars such as this one on topics relevant to our membership. With support from Proximity Learning and Bench K-12 respectively, we sponsor scholarships for future teachers and mini grants for school systems and nonprofits to encourage and support educator pipelines. In collaboration with Upbeat, we co-host an annual national working group on teacher retention. And we host an annual conference and education career expo each fall. Our 2023 event will be held on October 23rd through 26th in Chicago, Illinois. Check out our website to learn more. Thank you again for joining us for today's presentation. Let us begin. So just as a reminder, I mentioned it in the housekeeping, but just to clarify or point out, please do use chat or Q&A. I should make sure those settings are, okay, I needed to update that. All right, now you can chat. And you should be able to use the Q&A as an alternate. So one of those ways, feel free to submit questions, comments, and I will seek to address them probably at the end, but potentially as we go. So I'm just going to share some of the, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to delve into some of the highlights of the 2022-2023 Educator Supply and Demand Survey. This survey was conducted between September 21st of 2022 and March 31st of 2023. So for about 6 months, we were collecting responses from colleges and universities and school systems throughout the country. We received a total of 414 surveys that included 176 colleges and universities and 238 school districts. As you can appreciate, statistically, the more results, the more responses we get, the more statistically valid. So there is a margin of error of 6.2% with college and university responses using a 90% confidence level, and school districts are similar at 5.5% margin of error. We did, in this survey this year, we studied 65 education fields, including 11 areas of special education. For data geeks out there, we recent years, we had 64 education fields. The addition this year was adaptive physical education. So one of the cornerstones of this study is looking at the perspectives of college and universities versus school systems and how those differ. And so that's what we're going to chat about just now here, is looking at a side-by-side. So these are 2 pages from the report of the college and university responses and the school system responses. And you can see that just from the color coding, you can see there's some variation. I don't expect you to necessarily be able to read these slides as we're looking at them, but needless to say, this is a 2-page listing of all of the education fields being studied, and then how the college and universities responded on a 5-point scale, where the considerable surplus is in the dark green, and then some surplus is in the light green. Balanced is no color at all, some shortage in pink, and then considerable shortage in red. So we found in this study, colleges and universities identified 59 fields. Remember, there's a total of 65. So 59 of those fields, college and universities identified with shortages, 23 with considerable shortages. On the school system side, they identified 62 of the 65 as having shortages. 34 had considerable shortages. When we looked at between, in its totality, there was a 68% agreement between colleges, universities, and school systems in terms of, where specifically what those shortage, does this area do we both agree that this area is in some shortage, or do we both agree that this area is in considerable shortage, et cetera? That 68% agreement is fairly standard. It might be actually a little bit better than our usual. So don't be too surprised by that, but I think it's important to remember that, to take into account and appreciate the different perspectives from higher education and from school systems. So school districts obviously are much more concerned about the challenges related to having candidates for open positions, and other areas that we'll explore through this webinar today. Oh, and I think I mentioned that as I talked through the first part of the slide, just here highlighting again, the range is in reverse order, is considerable shortage to considerable surplus. And we use those ranges. It's a 5-point scale, but it literally is that, the scale. It's not a Likert, it's a sliding scale. Our educator shortage is a new issue. And also, when was the last time we saw balance overall? So for our study, we've been conducting this study since 1981. Our perspective is that it is not a new issue. However, it is the worst it has been since our study began, again in 1981. So again, it's on a scale of 1.0 with being considerable surplus, 5.0 being considerable shortage. The highest composite score in the history of the report was in 2010. Sorry, I apologize. My notes I'm not good on this slide. I apologize. So in 2010, that's the best number we saw in the last 20 years. 2015 was the last time we saw a balanced score. Most recently that we saw a balanced score in that range. So again, the trend is not a terribly positive one. So that is where we stand right now. So again, right now in 2023, 4.05, the first time, as you can see, the first time in the history of the report that we're into the 4s on our 5-point scale. On what shortage areas have colleges, universities, and school districts agreed in recent years? For at least the last 8 years, colleges, universities, and school systems have agreed on 24 shortage areas. So I'm not going to read them all here, but needless to say, there's some usual suspects: chemistry, ESL, ELL, math, physics, nursing, school pathology, speech pathology, and really all of the areas of special education that we've been studying over the last 10 years excuse me, 8 years. 10 of those areas have been included in the study for that time. But again, the caveat here is adaptive physical education was added just this year. So on what areas have schools, school districts, and colleges and universities disagreed in recent years? We find ourselves looking then to the areas of disagreement really are around school systems finding that many additional shortage areas in comparison to colleges, universities, just identifying that these are our pain points, and colleges and universities not necessarily seeing these as pain points in the labor market for educators. So a lot of languages, quite a few languages here. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, school psychology, school social work. So not maybe not a lot of surprises here, but important to highlight. Where did the different institutional types see balance this year? As you can see, there are only 8 where there were either kind of organization or both saw balance. As you can see here, colleges, universities saw balance in Greek and Latin, the classical languages, and dance education and Italian language, social studies education, Spanish, and theater drama. And then school systems only saw 3 areas: health education, physical education, and social studies education, where there was balance between the supply of educators and the demand for educators in those areas. In what subject areas did colleges and universities or school systems see a surplus for this year? 0. First time, I think I should have looked this up, but I believe it's the first time we've ever had no surplus areas whatsoever. The last holdouts were social studies and physical education and health education. What are some of the major challenges facing school districts? Having enough candidates for open positions. I'm not sure who the 1% are that don't have problems with having enough candidates, but 99% of responding school systems said they are having that is a major challenge for them. Recruiting teachers of color is a significant challenge for school districts, and the impact of decreased funding that a district receives, that's a significant challenge for many of the responding school districts. What is happening with enrollment in colleges and universities? So we include this information, this chart, in the study, in the report, excuse me, and I want to highlight that traditional enrollment is decreasing in 39% of the responding universities and colleges, whereas alternative certifications and licensures, that number is increasing. Perhaps, again, not surprising, but worth noting. So how do the perceived demand areas compare to the program offerings from colleges and universities? Again, we're looking, if you look at that graphic, we're seeking the goal, I think, for most would be to have a balance, a literal balance between supply and demand, and we're not achieving that right now. So when you look at another couple of pages from the report, what you see on the left hand, again, I recognize these are probably too small to be reading on this format, but on the left, you have perceived demand for graduates by colleges and universities across the top, and then down the side, it's the percent of institutions offering that education program, and then on the right-hand side, that's school systems, school districts, and their perceived demand for graduates. So you can see there's a lot of, there's almost nothing, there is nothing in the left-hand area for perceived demand, and there's almost nothing down the middle for medium demand. So a lot of demand for educators of all types, and quite a few of these education fields appearing in the um, in the bottom right, which is concerning, because the bottom right is that bottom right red area is a low percent of institutions offering these education programs. So where you see clearly there's a mismatch between there's a lack of alignment. And so I want to dig into that just briefly here. We see at least 26 subject areas with a significant lack of alignment. Adaptive PE, brand new to the study, already appearing on our list of subjects with significant lack of alignment. Some languages here, audiology, computer science education, journalism education, psychology, social work, speech education. I think most of the, if not all of the special education sub areas that we study. So again, that's concerning that there's such a lack of alignment between demand and supply, really its future supply in terms of generating it from colleges and universities. So meanwhile, who are school districts hiring? Where are they finding these people that they are managing to find? They are in growing numbers. They are finding them among non-traditional prep programs or emergency hires. Traditional prep so 2 years ago, traditional prep represented 84% of hires by responding school systems. Then it dropped last year to 79%, and now it's 75%. It is a higher number for suburban, a lower percentage for urban, and rural is about average, consistent with the overall number. Non-traditional was 12% 2 years ago, then 15%, now it's 17%. Again, more for urban, less for suburban, and rural near the average. Emergency hires, 4% 2 years ago, 6% last year, 8% this year. So definitely a shift happening. And the number one reason for hiring teachers without traditional preparation, 44% of responding districts say lack of traditional candidates who apply, while another 24% say shortage of education majors in colleges. We asked respondents for the best ways to attract high school students to study education in college. And here's what they said. Compensation incentives, that was significant for responding school systems. Involvement from elementary to high school, 16% of school systems. High school to college teacher programs, 15% of school districts, and almost 13% of universities like that idea. Minimize student debt was a top answer for universities, 11%. Increase salary, almost 11% of universities said that. Alternative education programs, 10.5% of school districts, and promote prestige of profession, 10% of universities felt that was the best way to support and encourage and attract high school students to study education in college. So I'm going to open it up to questions. So again, feel free to drop those into the chat or the Q&A. I think thought I had one waiting. Just an exclamation. So thank you for that. And I will invite you to ask questions, and I will do my best to give a quick and complete response. It is a 40+ page report, so there's a lot of information in the report. So you could catch me off, unable to answer quickly, but I will do my best. So Adam asks, is there a way for us to compare trends for a single discipline over time? So Adam, there is, I'm going to pull up the actual report here, and I'm pretty confident that one of the last, so there are some pages toward the end of the report that track the individual disciplines, the individual education fields, and how they have trended over time, how they've come in with as far as on the 5-point scale where they land. So you can look to that to see some trends or some changes over time. What used to be, again, and you see here in 16, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, you see physical education and social studies education still coming in as some surplus. And then you see other areas like special education where for many, many years, we've had some serious shortages, and unfortunately, just seems to be getting worse every year. So thank you for your question, Adam. And I'm hoping that everybody on this who's joining me today for this webinar has had a chance to see this report in its entirety. If you are having any trouble or difficulties with that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my contact information. If you need any help or have any follow-up questions that occur to you after this webinar, or you just want to kind of approach me offline, I certainly welcome those contacts. I'm just going to give it another minute. If I don't have any other questions at that point, I will close up this webinar. And again, the recording will be available in the very near future, and we'll let you know. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Veronica. Yes, very sad. Great. Get sad info. I appreciate the compliment, but yes, it is. We've got work to do. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye.